Betmaker Show. This is the horse racing picks preview for the Belmont Stakes, which debuts as the first race in this year's Triple Crown that runs at Belmont Park on Saturday, June 20th, 2020. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
All right, folks, here we go. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, and we are looking at the Belmont Stakes on Saturday. Fingers crossed, weather is good. The undercard is spectacular. Great races. But, boy, please don't let the skies open up there, because on big days when you get a lot of turf races, the field, the card can be decimated. But it looks like all systems go. And as for the Belmont, part of me is like, this is nothing special. It's 8 horses, and you got a significant favorite. And I'm like, they have a different mindset. Dive into this thing. And it's a horse race. And lo and behold, I think we got a real opportunity here and an angle for you to consider. The morning line favorite, and there's nothing but love, and with good reason, for Tiz the Law. Barkley tags the trainer. Manny Franco has the call. This one won the Holy Bull Grade 3 event at Gulfstream by 3 lengths. Wins the Florida Derby, which is always, if you want to call it the Florida Derby, Santa Anita Derby, the main preps for the Kentucky Derby, won in emphatic fashion. And this one sits just off the pace, has a really sound, consistent running style. And I think there's tactical speed, there's versatility. It's a 3-year-old son of Constitution. And there's no way to shoot holes at this one. It's run a good race every time. But the love affair for this horse at 6-5, it's almost like everybody thinks he has to fall down to lose. And I don't think that's the case in any way, shape, or form. Now, I think there's a way to make some dough here. And I also think there is a sound betting strategy. Now, my strategy would be to tell you that no matter what horse you pick in the Belmont, have the eye on the future to the Kentucky Derby, which is September 5th. So I'm absolutely in love with a horse on the rail here. 6-1 is Tap It to Win. And very briefly, before I get into the specifics of Tap It to Win, the premise I'm telling you, if you're doing your homework and you think it's Solo Volante or you think Farmington Road, whoever wins this race, okay, at William Hill, Tap It to Win is 50-1 to win the Kentucky Derby. So I love Tap It to Win. I have already then bet Tap It to win the Kentucky Derby, because whoever wins this race, and for argument's sake, it's Tap It to Win, this horse is going to go down to 9-2, 5-1 to win the Kentucky Derby. And the thing's sitting there floating, some places 25-1. I've seen as high as 50-1. But the bottom line is, if you really have a belief and a play on a horse in the Belmont, do a little shopping and make a Derby wager on this horse, because we're so late in the game. And we knew the charlatans and the Nadals of the world, and now Tiz the Law, I think, is like maybe, 7-2 to win the Kentucky Derby, is 6-5 here. The horse at 6-1 is 50-1. If he wins this race, he's going to be 4-1, 5-1 for the Derby. So at the very least, put a little flyer on whoever you like in the Belmont to win the Kentucky Derby. It's a sound, smart strategy to get an overlaid price. And that's, at this late date, that's a real opportunity. Now, why Tap It to Win? Well, it's funny. Just the horse itself, which should be the starting point, I love everything about it, but it is also one of my favorite angles. I've got 3 monster angles, and this one only rears its head a couple of, 8 to 10 times a year. But I always love, almost blindly, and I mean this sincerely. The problem is when there's 2 or 3 of them in the same race, then you really got to figure it out. But I always play the European invaders on the turf when they race on Lasix for the first time in North America. Everybody looks at them, and part of it is I don't understand I don't know that much about them, and the time form rating's different than the daily racing form. And these horses win at ridiculous overlaid prices. At big tracks, they go off 8, 10, 12 to 1. There was a European horse ran at Tampa earlier this week. They let this horse go off at 7 to 2. He won for chuckles. The European turf horses are better than the North American turf horses, simply put. End of story. Unless you're running in a race against Chad Brown, then you got a tiger by the tail. So that's one angle. My other one's first race as a 3-year-old, because horses change overnight as 3-year-olds. They put weight on, they become more mentally mature. To that end, Tap It to Win, actually, one of my favorite angles, the horse was 5 to 1. They thought something to this horse, ran in the Breeders' Futurity. Last year, had 1 win in 4 starts, but they thought they had something here. For whatever reason, just something was amiss. And first race back as a 3-year-old, this horse returns after running in the Grade 1 Futurity. People might thumb their nose still at this horse just on a class basis, but this horse raced in the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity, ran up the track 2 races in a row in an in-house stake, the Street Sense, finished 10th by 43 and 10th by 21, and you're going, that's the horse you like to win the Belmont? Well, that was in the fall as a 2-year-old. These horses put on weight, and they become different animals, but clearly they thought there was something here last year, and he just wasn't firing. All of a sudden, they bring him back as a 3-year-old. First race as a 3-year-old, wins with ease, 6 furlongs at Gulfstream, went off 5 to 1. Then he comes out of, people still weren't believing in this horse. In only an allowance race, he comes back at 6 to 1 at Belmont when he moved back north and went to the front and won for fun at 6 to 1 in an allowance race, and is now going into the Belmont. And normally you would get laughed at. You an allowance horse in the Belmont. I'm just telling you, this horse is a different horse. This is the horse they thought he was going to be last year, and even better. And if you look at the form cycle, 87 Beyer in the sprint, 97 Beyer went to the front. The fractions, 22 and 3, 45 and 3, 109 and 1. I mean, that's sprint material. I mean, that's like Breeders' Cup sprint contending kind of stuff. And the horse just kept going at 1 mile and a 16th and won by 5. And this is the lone speed in the race. I mean, Velasquez is going to get to the front here out of the rail. And tis the law's best Beyer's 100. And he's run big races his entire career. He is what he is. He's really good. This horse is on the improve and is only 3 Beyer points less than the other, the favorite. But the third big angle I play on an annual basis is John Velasquez. He is the go-to rider for Todd Pletcher. Amazing trainer and dominant on the New York circuit.
Betmaker, let's make some money tonight.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. John Velasquez has first call on anything that Pletcher sends to Post. In fact, he's got Dr. Post in this race, and Velasquez rode this horse a couple of times. But look, wait a minute, Velasquez is on the 1. He's riding for Mark Casse. It's such a hidden little nugget that, and it speaks volumes to the relationship that Velasquez and Pletcher have. Because, believe me, the in-house politics and the things that go on the backstretch with jockeys, agents, trainers, owners, that if Velasquez would, Pletcher's his money ticket. A lot of guys would go to their guy and go, hey, I want to go on this other horse. They go, no, you won't. You're on our horse. And if you don't get on our horse, you're going to lose the mount on all our horses. And believe me, that's more the rule than the exception. But when Velasquez has something live, Pletcher green lights him. Go ahead, you have my blessing. And then tomorrow, Velasquez will come back and get right back on Pletcher horses. And I'm telling you, I do this all the time. Velasquez, jockey agent, Velasquez, they way more often than not. I'm like 70, 80% of the time in my, my head, They're right. They picked the right horse, and he's going to have a horse that's better than Pletcher, who's got a couple in here. So the Velasquez not being with Pletcher is a big thing. But again, I'm just looking at third race form cycle, a son of Tappet. And oh, by the way, don't sleep on the fact that win was at Belmont, gets a race over the track. And I just don't see enough speed in here. Nothing can go with this horse. And there may be a handful that it turned into a 10-race field. There could be, if it's cheaper speed, somebody's going to go with Tappet to win. Certainly could compromise his chances, but it's not going to have the staying power to stick with him. And honestly, I think with ease, and it's the preferred running styles to go to the front, and he's on the rail, so Velasquez has to send. So, and he's good at this, and he's got to be alert, and this horse gets out and gets an easy lead. Honestly, I just think, and that last race, watching that last race, he was doing it all on his own, and Velasquez maybe hit him a couple of times in deep stretch, and I don't think he needed to, but this horse did it with ease. I think Tappet to win, gets to the front, and doesn't look back. So again, the moral of the story here is try to find those hidden opportunities for you to make money. And I've already done it. I bet Tappet to win the Kentucky Derby. I like Tappet to win. There's no way you can shoot holes at Tis the Law. I think he'll get first run at the pace setters. I think he's going to be in chase mode here. He's shown fight, and he's won really in going away style in every race but one, and that was a sloppy track. It's hard to shoot any holes at Tis the Law. I just think that there's a horse here that, and depending on how the track plays, because on many days, we see this at Churchill, on Derby Day, for whatever reason, they scrape the track down and they want fast times. Times don't matter. You want a fair surface. But boy, watch how the track's playing. If speed has been working, boy, it just really ups the ante here for Tappet to win. So I think you could, and then I think you got to hope for a bomb underneath. I think you could play a trifecta, and maybe, especially if Tappet to win gets the W here over Tis the Law and get something that runs up third, you could go a trifecta with Tappet to win and Tis the Law. Box them and use those two with all underneath, because I think the same thing is in play here, that these two horses, I believe, are really, and I should talk about Solo Volante, which is a nice story. If I'm going to get beat, I don't want to get beat, but if I'm going to get beat, I'm rooting for Solo Volante. Pat Biancone's the trainer. This one with the big rallying effort wins a $100,000 race at Gulfstream Park. Terrific closer. But why I'd say I could live with it is Panici, kind of a journeyman in-house rider at Gulfstream Park. I think this is cool. He gets the mount. This kid gets his day in the sun. He gets to go up to Belmont to run in this race so many times. And I understand it. You're trying to win a Triple Crown race. If you can get a Florent Giroux or a Mike Smith, I understand why trainers do this. But I love when they reward the local guy that's been on the horse in the morning. He's done nothing wrong, and he's won races. And the Panici kid keeping him out, I think is pretty interesting. But again, with a running style like he has, traffic can always be an issue. You got to work out a trip. Junior Alvarado, I'm a big fan of him, aboard Bill Mott's horse. This one, it was racing at Fairgrounds. And boy, he's got to take a big step forward. But again, to my point, the works are ridiculous here. 59 breezing, 59-1 leading into this race. The crazy thing is the 3-year-olds can change overnight. Yeah, so maybe this horse Modernist does go with Tappet to win. We'll see. But I'm all about those two horses again. And I think, with pick 3s and pick 4s coming in, use Tis the Law, but I think if you want the nice little price there, I really believe Tappet to win. Pace makes the race, and I think he's lone speed. And again, the one thing, no matter who you choose in the Belmont, and if you like something other, if you like a Modernist or a Farmington Road, I mean, there's still balloon numbers that are out there for them to win the Kentucky Derby, because the winner of this race is going to have the point structure and is going to take a shot at the Kentucky Derby. And the hardest thing is to get them to the gate. And you're sitting here one step away from getting in the starting gate with a ridiculous overlaid price, money management, all the things we talk about in all sports. There's a real opportunity. Whoever you pick to win the Belmont, make sure you make at least a small little flyer wager on them to win the Kentucky Derby. It's tap it to win, and 'tis the law for me. Odd deal. Belmont, shorter distance. First leg of the Triple Crown. Derby second. Preakness on October 3rd. It's an uncertain time, and we're seeing a lot of uncharted situations, and this is one of many. And to the point where, can a horse that's coming out of an allowance race win the Belmont? I think the answer is absolutely yes, because most of these trainers are pointing the horses, the great horses were pointed for the first Saturday in May, and that's why there'll always be an asterisk on this. I'll wrap it up with this. I don't care, everybody will say, oh, no. No, there's an asterisk here. Because the bottom line is, first Saturday in May is when all these other 3-year-olds had to be ready early in their 3-year-olds campaign. And then why the Triple Crown will be so hard is the third leg, if you were alive. You got to race at a distance you never go again at 1.5 miles, and all the fresh shooters are there to take you out. And now you're running the Belmont first at a shorter distance. So forever, if somebody were to win the Triple Crown, wonderful accomplishment, but one of the biggest asterisks in any sport ever. But we'll have some fun with it, and we'll try to make some money. Good luck at the races this weekend. I'm Brian Blessing in Las Vegas.
Betmaker, let's make some money tonight.
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com. And reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and the Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.